It's just, yeah.
Excelente, so we're off. So I happen to be in Durham today after going to Edinburgh and doing the marches there, and then going to Newcastle, and then here to Durham, where by pseudo coincidence, like through connections, I happen to be here with Arely and Ernesto, who are the two Mexican academics at Durham, who you may have seen the stories about. The Home Office tried to kick them out with extremely short notice, and thanks to all the public pressure from their colleagues and friends and other campaigners, and God knows how many interviews you guys did, right? Public pressure, then finally, when was it, Monday? Yeah. So less than a week ago, the Home Office relented and said that you've got indefinite leave to remain. You've got the letter here, don't you, on screen? Awesome. So we'd like to talk about that, because essentially this is being an ongoing thing for academics from outside the EU. There have been cases that I've talked about before with Miwa Hirono, which was absolutely traumatic when she was booted out for taking too much time out of the country when that law was applied retrospectively to her. And this is the case with these two. That was the threat. But it's been an ongoing problem. And then also with EU academics, they're getting increasingly nervous looking at their non-EU colleagues and seeing what they're suffering. And when the EU academics start getting deportation letters as well, hundreds of those letters coming through in false batches, it starts to make everyone twitchy. So as we go forward, what's it going to be like for everyone working in British universities that's non-Brit? What are the rules going to be when the Home Office is behaving like this? So I guess over to you guys. When did you first get that letter from the Home Office saying you've got 2 weeks to clear out, and what did you do to provoke it? Come on, what were you?
I mean, we started the whole application in September last year. Yep. So we submitted this huge amount of evidence, yep, letting the Home Office know what we were doing in that specific time, yep, where we knew we were over the 180 days. But yep, then looking at their own regulations, you can sort of be dismissed of these 100 days if you were conducting humanitarian or assisting in a humanitarian crisis.
That's an exceptional clause.
It's an exception that they have.
So you've been here on tier 2 visas, right, for about 5 years?
Six
years.
Yeah.
And then after that, you have to apply for indefinite leave to remain.
Yeah, there's no other option. So when you reach your 6th year, you have to apply for indefinite leave to remain, if you have, obviously, work here in the UK.
And that's what you applied to do. But you were aware that you'd been out of the country for longer periods than was standard because you were working, or well, tell us about the work in Mexico, because this is cool.
Well, we got an ESRC transformative grant to start a DNA database managed, governed, and created by the victims of violence in Mexico. So 160,000 people have died in the last 10 years in Mexico. Yeah.
So this is gang violence, and with the government often sort of weaving in and out, and some of the problems.
Pretty much complicit.
And because research we have done before, we realized that there were the parents and the mothers, the ones looking for their daughters and sons in Mexico. So conducting all these investigations to trying to find out what happened to them. Yeah. So with this knowledge in our heads, and with sort of the interest of Ernesto and I just converged in order to create this transformative research, which was funded by the Economic and Social Research Council in the UK. So the whole idea was to help these families creating these alternative DNA, sort of a citizen-led DNA.
Totally independent from the government. So you could not imagine the Mexican government saying, yes, we recognize this humanitarian crisis coming from our gang violence and our lack of enforcement of rules and laws. And so the whole idea, and that's still alive. I mean, probably the amazing thing is that the DNA database is still alive and managed by the relatives of the disappeared.
Yeah, and because you guys were based at Durham, in the UK, far distant from all of the Mexican systems, then that meant that you could be in the local media discussing all of this, and you sort of almost had a layer of protection from being based in the UK and doing this work with the Mexican, difficult situation on the ground.
I think this is super important now because we have the Global Challenges Research Fund, all this push for impact in academia, so they really want us to do this kind of research. Yeah. And some of us are keen and happy to do it because we're already inclined. Yeah. But it's going to be a great problem if in one side the UK government and the research councils want us to do transformative research, and on the other side the Home Office creeps in to kind of deal with our method. So now on, from now on we have to think about, oh, should I be just doing these 90 days?
Yeah. So they're saying get involved. Yeah, you're global champions. You're great for British universities. You've got global cause, but you spent too much time doing it. Yeah. So now we're gonna cut you loose in 2 weeks and make you go to like Mexico without our protection.
Yeah, especially when you are, doing field work, it's always very sort of uncertain, and it can change rapidly. And it was what happened to us.
It's a risky environment, guys. So
So we were there working with these families who have been affected for a long time now. Yeah. But on top of that, when we arrived, so this is for 2014, and in September 2014, the case of the 43 students that disappeared in Ayotzinapa, Guerrero in Mexico, was a huge case which caused sort of international attention. And a lot of people thought about this case as one example of what was happening in other parts of the country.
And suddenly we had 500 people asking for DNA samples.
Yeah.
So out of the blue, the project is starting, and then you have 500 families that are looking for their kids in mass graves. So you cannot say, well, give me a second, I need to go back to the UK. And because, I have been here many days.
It's day 179 and we have to go back.
Yeah. So you thought, blatantly this is a humanitarian situation. That's part of the law. We know it. We've been here for 6 years. You've got a daughter here. Yeah. So it's a no-brainer that now we go forward to get this indefinite leave to remain. We just tick the humanitarian box. Listen, we're talking about kids being kidnapped and killed here, evidently. And then...
Surprise.
Yes, surprise. First, we had this letter telling us, you have a right for an admin review. And we thought, well, they didn't get the first times. They were rushed, and they didn't see the 1.5 kilograms of evidence we show them of all the things we have done in Mexico, the grants.
So you put together a big kind of compendium of information.
Yes. Right. Letters from NGOs, mothers, telling how great the work has been for their lives. I mean, evidence from forensic specialists that have changed their minds. All the things we could think about. And that was not enough.
Yeah. Is it saying low battery there? And that's why you're plugging in. Okay, yeah, good stuff. It'll be all right. It'll keep filming, but
and suddenly you have these news that after a month they reviewed their case.
Yeah.
They told us that they recognized it was a humanitarian project.
Yeah.
But somehow we were not assisting in a humanitarian crisis.
Right. So it's kind of like a humanitarian, but kind of like chronic, not acute. Therefore... Yeah. Is this when they said, out in 2 weeks, pack up all your stuff, pack up your house, take your daughter, and, you've got 2 weeks to split and go to a completely different continent. And is that, how did that make you feel when you saw that? Were you a bit scared? Jeez.
I think it is, it adds up to the whole uncertainty, because we have always had this uncertainty of applying to visa and then another visa and then another visa. But then
expensive visas,
especially when you are arriving to this sort of final destination of the tier 2 visa, you said, okay, this is it. We've done it. But then no. And then it just adds to the uncertainty. And then we were worried about our daughter. Because all this time we had, the two of us were sort of the ones taking all the sort of... this amazing, the problem on our shoulders and whatever, but then out of the sudden we have to communicate that to her.
We didn't want to share the news until the very day we appeared on the TV news.
She's in year 6 now, isn't she?
Yes.
And she came here when, before 1 year old.
Yeah.
So, this is, she's British schools kind of brought up here.
Yeah.
And we also told the Home Office that it was a delicate research, that if we went back to Mexico, we will be vulnerable. So we have a huge, the only independent database is encrypted here in Durham.
Yeah.
So it's not a good idea to send people doing human rights work back to Mexico.
Yeah.
Without the cloud and the...
Exactly, because you were there before, we're from Durham in the UK, they've got our back, we've got these solid databases, the government here can't touch any of that, and then suddenly, we've been kicked out of the house, no, and suddenly we're vulnerable in the community. Oh yeah, well done,
yes.
British Home Office, again. Oh my, and this is kind of like a massive worry for others, but before we get on to that, you guys didn't stay silent, you didn't just take it, you got advice from a lawyer, wasn't it? That basically the Home Office has a history of doing this. If you make a big fuss and get attention out there, then they'll look at it.
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julian Morgan was the one that helped us with this, and
Joe Morm is a boss guy. I mean, he really champions so many people, and he keeps going. And so, if you guys connected with him, then yeah, fantastic.
yeah, that was thanks to the new project on anti-kidnapping, because one of our colleagues is his wife Rita de la Feria was fantastic. Connor Riley, who's the PI of this project on Newton Fund, he told me like, you need help, and my wife is a great lawyer. She was in the Panama Papers, and she was
Really now?
yes.
Oh, good stuff.
And she connected us with Jolion, and just between 11 p.m. and the next morning there were 7,000 tweets, and we didn't do anything. Just the next day we were like showered by mass media calls,
support, and
yes, and everything happened from.
And you had a petition, right?
Yes. One of our friends who works here at the university, in Durham University, she was like, I need to do like this petition because this is not sort of this is not right.
Jessica Sequeira,
Jessica Sequeira started drafting the whole thing, and she was like, are you right with this? And she was very helpful. And this at the beginning of these couple of hours, like we were just like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
So we started since the very beginning, feeling all the support from our community, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Claire, of course, Claire Horwell was the one helping me on the side of the university, making all the calls and trying to link us with BC. So we had like different groups of people supporting us, one in the university, the other with the petition, Jolion with mass media and the legal team.
Yeah,
and
so then it all started coming in, the university support, the legal support, the petition support, everyone, the media getting interested, everyone rallying around.
Yeah.
And then the Home Office sent this letter, right?
Yes. Well, basically they say they did everything right, and because they have discretional powers, they have reviewed their decision, but not because we were in the right. It's just that they have...
It's their discretional powers that are scary, isn't it? Because I was telling you before about... We'll talk about the case of Mira Hirono, because she got some media exposure, but not to the same level that you did. So basically the Home Office just sent her home. Even though they were applying their own laws retrospectively, they judged that they were right by their discretionary powers and said, you're out of the country. You're a top academic, your university supports you, but we say no. Well done, Theresa May. But, I mean, the thing is that this has been ongoing. Our Home Office do this quite regularly, and it's quite shocking every time. And so this made quite a lot of your colleagues nervous, didn't they?
Yeah.
Your non-Brit ones, whether it's EU colleagues or non-EU colleagues, everyone's like, oh my God.
It's just in 1 year we're going to be in, all of us in the same situation. So you can imagine this is like a massive crisis in anthropology. So all of us are doing at least 1 year field work.
Yeah.
So suddenly if you're not a UK academic, you're kind of a second-class citizen in this system.
Yeah.
And you're going to be kicked out of the country for doing your job.
Yeah.
And you might not be doing humanitarian stuff as we were doing.
Yeah.
So you might not even enter into that exceptional circumstance.
Yeah.
And that could be a super huge crisis for the whole higher
but
education.
it's anyone who does field work. So Jessica, so she's the American archaeologist, right?
Oh no, you're talking about Jennifer Wexner.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
So the American archaeologist,
Yeah.
of course, does field work, and then Miwa Hirono, she was like an international relations specialist. So there are so many academics that have to work in different. How's it for volcanologists, Ed? We've got a volcanologist over there. I imagine your colleagues spend a whole load of time sort of in other countries as well.
Yeah,
and it's just part of the job.
You can't do earth sciences without going abroad and doing fieldwork.
Yeah. So it cuts right across.
Even the School of Modern Languages here in Durham, they also drafted a letter to the BC because since the very beginning they were very concerned, since most of their staff members are European, well, non-British. Academics.
Even if you're a historian looking at a manuscript, you have to be in specialized libraries for a year looking at things. If you're a physicist, you have to be in these fellowships with other fellow physicists. I mean, the work we do is international by nature.
Yeah.
And we cannot just close our eyes and say, no, we're not going to do field work in Indonesia or Japan or Mexico because the Home Office is going to punish me.
Yeah, it's an impediment. And then the thing is that if you've got 3.5 million EU citizens, and at the moment they have guaranteed rights, and you're going to drag and drop those onto the same mismanagement that you guys have just been through, and the Home Office has got, error rates of between 10 and 30% on lots of these forms, then that's lots of people that are going to fall out of the system, both EU, that are being put into it, and none of you that have been constantly suffering it, when the Home Office clearly doesn't have enough capacity at the moment. What capacity is going to be there in order to catch errors and make sure that people's lives are preserved, especially when they've got, for example, young kids in the country? So we were chatting before about the campaign Here for Good that has been set up to help, the EU citizens, of all walks of life, providing them with the legal support. But I think, collectively within academia and universities, we need to get together and make sure we've got enough petitioning support and legal support and support from the universities, and support as like a community of people for those that suddenly find themselves thrown into this situation, because the government's not going to do it. It's not their priority at the moment.
No, we need to lobby. I mean, I was amazed and kind of scandalized by the notion that the universities don't have a strong lobbying group.
No, they're actually not as good at it as they should be. Yeah.
Yes, to fight for our interests. So they have all these international workers, but suddenly we don't have a voice in this kind of policy change. So we need to be that voice.
Yeah.
Probably if we're going to try to gather evidence to go next month to the Parliament and try to push for wider change.
Yeah, well, look me up when you're down there. I'm a Londoner. So Aralee and Ernesto, thanks so much. That's been really good fun. And now we can shut this down and we can get on to our other conversations and celebrate again.